Okay, people, I'm back. Tales from the Pen. We got an interview today. We got someone special. She's been one of my day ones, so I figured it only right that, she come up on the show. And, won't you introduce yourself and let everybody know where you're from, Britta?
Hi, Fred. I was fortunate enough to stumble across. I think you were posting a lot on, I think, Tech Immortal's website on Instagram very early on, and I think it correlates in time. I was trying to work it out the other night. My personal story is I'm 49. I've probably given nearly 7 years to the system. I have got 2 adult children. I've actually got grandchildren, and I come from my father's side, my Indigenous side. We come from the Yuin Nation. I'm a Wadi woman, which is like the tribal group within a large sub-tribe. So it's quite hard for anyone that doesn't particularly perhaps understand, but that's
Wait, hold on. For the people who don't know, Britta's from Australia. Yeah.
Yep.
Britta's from Australia. So go ahead, Britta.
Right. Yep. And my story personally was I was it's crazy. I grew up, I was adopted. I was part of what was known here as the brown paper bag policy, which was the stolen generation. So kids sort of anywhere from my age and older were, and I only found this out when I was reunited with my natural mother, who's non-Indigenous, and she told me. The nurse literally came in and put a paper bag up against my skin, and she took me off my mum. And
why is that? What? Real quick for people who don't understand, because I don't. Over here in America, what does that mean? They put you up to a paper bag. They seen that you had like the same skin color as a paper bag, and that means you're no good?
No, it means that I could be integrated into a non-Indigenous family. I could pass as non-Indigenous.
Okay.
So it is now known officially in our history as the stolen generation. And I was lucky. I was adopted into a beautiful family. We travelled. I was really lucky to have an education, and when I went back to meet both my biological father and my mother, and they weren't still together. My dad was a boxer, a barefoot boxer, who travelled around Australia boxing, and you would pay £5 to go and try and knock him out. It's known as to the shaman boxing troupe. And when I was reunited with my mother and my father, my biological family, they both had said to me, we would never have been able to give you the life that you were given. Okay. And that was, I was privately educated. I was raised in a loving home. My brother and sister are both, my sister's a vet and my brother's a marine biologist. So I'm literally the black sheep of the family.
No, I got you. Hold on real quick, Britta. I want to ask you a question, right? Going back to the brown bag policy, right? Because that interests me. So if your skin was darker than the brown bag or as the brown bag, what would have happened?
You would stay with your family because you couldn't be reintegrated into a non-Indigenous family.
Even if they wanted to put you up, like as you said they did, they put you up for adoption and you ended up having a better life. So if that person wants to put somebody up for adoption, and they're darker, they're stuck with the baby. Is that how that works?
Yeah, well, what is now known as the stolen generation is now there's major class action lawsuits going on here because a lot of, I would say, sort of 55 onwards who were darker were indentured servants. They and the stories. I'm actually a journalist. I'm a freelance journalist, and some of the stories I've heard are absolutely horrific, and
Right.
I don't, by any stretch of the imagination, fall under that category. But
When you
if
say
anyone gets the opportunity, watch a document. It's actually a film. It's called Rabbit Proof Fence.
rabbit-proof fence,
Yeah.
okay. Now let me ask you, when you say servants, what does that mean? What do you mean? Like,
Sex slaves. They were, the boys were, I heard stories, these were personal stories that were told to me
okay,
from women that were searching, because what happened in 1998, there was a massive outcry, and people wanted the books open because the books were closed. This was an embarrassment to the Australian government that this had occurred. So the books were closed. No one knew. I didn't know where I came from. My adoptive family had very, very basic facts about my adoptive mother, of my biological mother, my biological father. Just very, very basic, simple facts.
got you.
So when they opened those books, I think I met my mother. That was easy. She was non-Indigenous. So I met my mother, and that story is just mind-blowing, but it's a total tangent away from why we're here. But I met her, and but with my father it was harder because, like I said, this was an embarrassment. This is now officially known as the stolen generation. Anyone that, I mean, one of our most popular prime ministers here was Kevin Rudd, and his first order of business when he was elected in 2007 was to apologise for the stolen generation.
Wow.
And
Crazy.
so, yeah, and I mean, and this is stuff that I only learned. My older brother, who's no longer with us, my biological older brother, who's no longer with us, he's very educated in Aboriginal history and culture, and he told me stuff that blew my mind. This is not taught in our schools. We are taught in our schools as is probably your kids are taught that Christopher Columbus came over there and peacefully settled, and you know, this whole land,
right.
This whole country, nation was settled on lies.
Yep, same here. Same here. You know, they teach different things in schools that, you know, that I really know, you know what I mean? And you know,
I grew up, I mean, and I grew up believing it. And I mean, and on the back of what your live was yesterday, this stuff makes people squirm because it doesn't. I mean, the answer is here, and we have a history of colonisation of 232 years. We were colonised in not colonised. We were invaded in 1788, and the first order of business by Captain James Cook was to send note back to the Queen in England and tell them that this land was terra nullius, which is actually Latin for this land belongs to no one. So he ignored the thousands and thousands and thousands of Aborigines that met him when he landed at where he landed in Sydney Cove in Australia.
Okay.
So
that part gets left out.
And no one knows this. You know, I think stuff's getting integrated. Like my granddaughter comes home and she tells me stuff, and you know, and and
we're gonna admit Albie too. Albie's here.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome.
So I'm gonna see how this works. I don't know
Albie,
how all three. Albie's gonna pop up in the screen too. We're gonna speak to Albie too. We're gonna have this
yeah.
conversation. This is
Well,
what I
I
want to hear.
met Albie, interestingly enough, they had a royal commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. And Albie, I was working for a big media outlet here, and one of the biggest stories that I ever did was to cover the male inmates who were getting the opportunity to, on a grassroots level, implement some of the recommendations from the Aboriginal Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. Pardon me. So yeah,
So
I interviewed him, and I just bumped into him on a prison advocate website here in Australia only a couple of days ago.
okay. Well, hopefully he could get in. I seen him there. I hit the request so he could get in. It says like he's trying to come in here. Let's see. Wait. Let's see. Albie. It says his mic is on now, but he's not in here yet with the video aspect of it. But yeah, it's all right. It's no problem. So, I just wanted to get other people's perspective from all over the world, and like this is already interesting to me. You know, the lost generation, the brown bag policy. I mean, these things these things are the rest of the world wouldn't believe. You know,
No,
like.
I mean, and this is why I was constantly getting put into Facebook jail because
Facebook jail.
oh my God, it was like I was released from this jail and I'm constantly in Facebook jail because they don't like what I say there. It blows my mind that what we have done to our country in 232 years. And like you said, on the back of the murder of this man.
Oh no, I lost you. Hold on, we're gonna start recording.
Listed in this.
There you go. Hold on, I lost you for a minute, Britta.
Okay.
Okay, it's the internet is not okay. You back? You there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see you. We're good. I don't know what's Albie. Albie seemed like he's having trouble getting in here. Maybe just like you did. I don't know. This is Zoom thing. But okay, so yeah. So go ahead. Keep. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. All I can. I mean, on the back of your live yesterday about Ahmad Aubrey, who was, I saw the video. It was, and it makes people squirm. People don't stuff. It doesn't sit well with us as human beings. It doesn't sit well with us that this goes on.
That's right. You know how much hate? You know how much hate I got on that video? I just block people and delete them. You know how many people are like, "Yo, white, you shouldn't be talking about that," and I'm just like, that's the problem with today's society. That's what's problem. I don't have, I don't have a racist bone in my body.
I know.
But when I see injustices, I don't care what it is. You know what I mean? That's just the way I am. But you would be surprised how much hate I got off that video.
I knew it. I saw it, and I said, if we don't start, because it's in our complacency that we are complicit in this behaviour.
Yeah.
If we hate begets hate, ignorance begets ignorance.
Correct.
And it continues. The cycle continues, and it's multi-generational.
That's right.
And this will be happening to our kids.
Exactly. And that's part of it too. It's like, you know, eventually my kids are going to see the videos. And, you know, I want my kids to understand what's right and what's wrong, because that's the part, that's the problem. Is because, like, going back to what you said earlier, you know, when we're taught in school with Christopher Columbus and all the rest of this stuff, it's because that's what we've learned, you know what I mean? And the first lessons learned are always the hardest to forget. You know that, Britta. So when they're instilling this in us, so we're not knowing any better and like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. No, it's not what it's supposed to be. It's
Yeah.
not what
Hello.
it's supposed to be. Hey, Albie,
Hey,
Hello.
Albie, how's it
I,
going,
I,
I
brother?
can
I,
see. I can see you. I can see you and hear you,
we
but
can't see you, my friend. It says your camera is off.
my camera is off.
Yeah, that's what it says. It says your camera is like, I have it has a little camera button and it's crossed out like your camera's not on, my friend.
Why is that? What?
Yeah, like, well, I have it on my end because I'm the host.
It's
I can.
saying recording. I don't know why it's recording.
That's Fred's recording that, brother.
I'm
But
recording the Zoom so we can put it on my YouTube channel. I wanted to do it this way here so I can edit it and stuff like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
But
yeah.
I've got you in the middle. I've got Bitter down underneath, and wait it. We'll start video here.
Wait, oh,
Hey,
there we
Al-
go. Albie.
greetings, my sister, my brother.
There we
Hello,
go.
hello,
Listen,
hello.
listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm not too much on the modern technology either. Britta would tell you earlier, I had my 12-year-old daughter here trying to figure this out. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
So it's
I'm as sharp as a bowling ball, me.
so we in the same bowling alley, brother. We in the same bowling alley.
Exactly.
Hey man, like,
Yes.
well, welcome to the discussion, Albie. Why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
Yeah, hi. Before I do introduce myself, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I am on, the Wiradjuri people from the Wiradjuri Nation of New South Wales. And I pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and our future ones. And also pay respects to my sister Britta and yourself, Fred,
I appreciate it.
to join in this wonderful conversation that's taking place right here, right now, on this, you know, across this international world. Like I say, we got Sister Britta on the, is it the, what's the Darkinjung?
Corey Mail anymore, brother. We're down to skeletons.
I'm talking about the area like Central Coast is Darkinjung
Yeah.
country.
I've explained to Fred I'm not from here. It wasn't my place to
But you're on
welcome
there.
Fred. Yeah, but no, I'm from down Wreck Bay on the south coast.
Very good. Yeah, so yeah, my name's Albie Ryan. I'm a proud Wiradjuri man from Dubbo and now living in Dubbo, which is in the central west of New South Wales, Australia.
Okay.
It's a pleasure. I got asked by my sister about joining in this conversation, which I was very pleased to and you know and accept it.
Participating. That's right. Now, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming. You know, I appreciate you coming. You know, we over here, you know, in the United States, but, you know, some of my subscribers literally are from all over the world. So, you know, your message and, you know, what we speak about is going to be heard everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, unashamedly, I've been a product of like the juvenile system and then the prison system.
Okay.
And my last stint, actually done 14 years in the New South Wales prison. In '92, I went in and I got released in 2006.
Okay.
Now, after being released, I moved back here to Dubbo to be with my mum, and things weren't going too well in Dubbo, so I moved with my missus to Orange, which is an hour and a half east of Dubbo,
Okay.
so towards Sydney, and I ended up applying for a job in New South Wales Health, a government job, which I was granted, and whilst I was on parole. So, you know, that in itself speaks volumes, because it's very unheard of for inmates, male or female, to be granted government jobs with not only just a criminal background,
Right.
but also a being on a parole period. So, that was a double plus for me, and it helped me, get to where I am today, not only in life, but also, in growth. But a lot of that stems back to my period in prison. So a lot of the, what they call is rehabilitation stuff and whatever, was more towards something that I done with myself,
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. So,
Hey, excuse me, were we in the same prison system?
Well, we was, but hey, I was in my own prison.
Yeah.
right. Let me ask you. So, for you to get a job like that, for coming home, a government job, it means that you were looked upon as like a model inmate, maybe, or someone that could be trusted in that structure.
Well, I believe, you get more, this is going to sound strange to a lot of people, you get more trust whilst you're in prison than when you do when you come outside, because, you got to sort of, people know of your background and where you come from. They think, well, he can't be trusted. But yet,
Right.
while you're living inside, you do get the trust not only from other inmates, but also from officers and staff and, educational staff and, the employment staff that work in there as well. So, to build on that.
Sorry to interrupt you, brother, but
Yep.
even in that aspect, you toe a very fine line, and especially as an Indigenous inmate, because you don't want to be seen to be mixing too much with,
The guard.
screws.
Right.
Guards. They screws because they turn the screws on us at night.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what it was that helped me, Fred, was I came in at a very.
Oh, this is my last interruption. I'm classic. I just was telling Fred, I interviewed you.
Yes.
When did we work it out?
Well, I believe it would have been around 92, 93.
So he was an inmate there, and you interviewed him.
I was a journalist. Yeah, I was the escort.
Yeah, Fred was the journalist for Courier Mail. Is that right?
I was working for the ABC at the time.
ABC Speaking Out program or something.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let me
There you go.
let me ask you, Albie, real quick, and we're gonna get to both of you guys, if you don't mind, because I'm not sure if you're too familiar with my channel, but my channel is I tell stories, or I tell things about my life, or I tell things on why I went to prison, or I tell things that happened in prison, and what my whole objective is just to deter kids from following the same footsteps that I did, right? So if you don't mind a little bit, maybe get into a little bit about what maybe led you to the penitentiary in the first place. You know what I mean? Because you'd be surprised how many people can identify with your story.
Well, basically, I believe it is through my believe it was, it stems from your probably upbringing. Now, I come from, like I said, a broken home. Now, in saying that, when my mum and dad split up, I went to live with my dad. My other siblings went to live with mum.
Gotcha.
So because my dad had retired from work through injury, was an alcoholic, I still wanted to stay with him because of the male figure stuff in my life, But then the welfare system, stuck its beak in again, and I was put in the boys' homes,
Ooh.
at a young age. So growing up, from 9 till 16 in the boys' homes away from my family, I missed out on that family bonding period that was very vital to not only myself, but in our circle of Aboriginal, living. Our family structure is our backbone. But yet, I with myself, it felt like, all the strangers were my family, and my own family were strangers. And that's in, I believe, in our life today. I look at a lot of the young kids, like Britta's probably already explained the percentage rate of our youth that are incarcerated, you know.
We're gonna get
Sorry, Albie,
broken
what I
homes.
have explained is the stolen generation and the kids that were removed because of the colour of our skin
yeah,
based
that's
on the
what we got to. We didn't get to too much further than that. So
that's basically
Can you
it.
gag her, please? Can
What
you
was that?
gag her? I thought you said you wasn't going to interrupt. Hey, but that's what black fellas like, Fred. We do that, you know. We love doing it because
nah, it's all love. It's all love with me.
we're very opinionated people, and we do like to chip in and
Nah,
and
it's all
give
love. Britta knows
clarity,
it's all love.
give clarity and everything to, you know, to what
Right, right.
other people are saying, you know, which is great. And sometimes we might miss a point, you know, which, like Witta said, now you know, the stolen generation. I say the welfare system, so I don't believe that I was part of the stolen generation, but other people seem to think that I am.
Right,
Now,
right.
because
So
the stolen generation.
So you were 16 when you came out of like
Yeah,
boys'
yeah,
home.
to live with, yeah. Now, when I got, like I said, at 16, they told me when I was going in that I was only going in for 12 months, right? So 1 year. I come out when I was 16, but I couldn't go back and live with my dad or my family. I had to go and live in foster home, you know. So I had to live in Dubbo, here in Dubbo. I wasn't allowed to cross the train bridge to my dad, who lived in. My mum lived out of town, but you know, I had to stay within the confines of
Is that because you were bad?
No, it's because of this welfare act that, you know, wanted to control our lives. You know,
They wouldn't let them see you.
no, I wasn't allowed to go and stay there. They let me see them, but I wasn't allowed to go and spend a weekend with them or whatever. I had to wait until I was cleared by the welfare board that I would have been suitable to, you know, start living on my own, sort of thing.
It's crazy to hear all this. It's crazy to hear all these type laws and these type things, and you know, it's crazy. You know, real quick, Albert. So Britta, let me ask you a question. So growing up, like, how did you end up getting involved? Because I know you said that you gave a few years yourself to the prison system. How did you? Was that before you became a journalist? After? During? Both? Like, how did that happen?
Right on the border. Right on the border. I'd finished my studies. I was a journalist. I was working for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, as Albie can attest.
Right.
Sorry. And
Okay.
yeah, I met someone that I thought, yeah, I met a man, and Albie was there to witness it, basically.
Okay. It's always them. It's always them men. Damn it! It's always them men. I'm trying to explain that to my daughter now. It's always them men.
I've only just found that out, though, Fred.
It took her long enough.
Hey.
Yes. So you met a man, brother?
Yeah, God. And actually, the first charges I ever faced were purely I took charges for him.
That's a story. That's a story told over here a lot. That's a story told over here a lot. So that's why I like to hear these things. You took it for him. You went to jail, and where did he go?
To the probably I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. He wasn't visiting me. I can tell you that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? I try to teach this to my daughter now. I'm serious.
I didn't even get buy-up. So yeah, that was
Damn. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that part. Okay.
Look, what I can say is I was adult, I was educated, and I should have known better because I was raised around a strong woman. And yeah,
Right. So you took the charge, and that was your first charge. So
Yep.
it seemed like you had a few other ones, Britta.
That's what love does here, love. Oh, love.
You had one more?
One, and that was 4 years, 8 months I did. And
Mm,
it was fraud, embezzlement, and theft.
embezzlement. Okay. All right. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Albie, how about you? What was your first interaction with the authorities?
So, so mine was when like I said, when I was finally released back into, like, probably no one's cared, my own care, being 16, turning 17. Yeah, I got caught up in alcohol,
Okay.
and so because of coming from a family of my dad being alcoholic whatsoever, and I used to see him so happy when he drank, and I grew up with the concept thinking that if I drank, I'd be happy.
Right.
But see, I drank, I wasn't happy, but I drank to compress the sadness in me, the loss of what I had, I missed out on. I missed out on my cultural connection, my family connections. I missed out on everything, but and to me, sad. That was sad for me growing up.
Yeah.
And so alcohol, once when I tasted alcohol, I thought, oh, gee, this is all right. But then, you know, yeah, you get drunk, and mate, I woke up in the strangest of places people would not believe. That. I
I
woke up
did-
in parks, I woke up in gutters, I woke up in police cells. I even woke up in the morgue once.
in the
You
morgue.
know,
Wait,
in the morgue.
they thought you were dead, or you was just
Yeah,
hanging out in
yeah.
there?
No, they thought I was dead. Because yes, like I said,
Funny.
see,
It's not
I
funny, but it's
I
funny.
I lost a lot of blood. I walked out of a pub once, and that's all I remembered. Some bloke clobbered me with a bundi or something, which is a stick or something, what we call a big stick or something. That's what we call it. Could have been anything, but we
Okay.
say bundi just to give it that explanation.
Right. Hit you
You
with
know,
something.
and I hit the concrete, and apparently I lost a lot of blood. By the time the ambulance got there, and they couldn't feel a pulse on them, they thought I was dead. So when they took me to the hospital, um, they just wheeled me, put a sheet over me, and wheeled me straight into the morgue, right? And I was sitting in there. I was laying in there actually, in the morning. I woke up, my head throbbing, and I was cold and shivering and everything with sheet over me. And just as I sat up, I still remember it clear as day, when I got up like that and the sheet dropped off me, a nurse would just open the door to come in. And I tell you, the scream, and
Oh
then
my God. I can
and
imagine
then
that's like every horror movie. You
she was
walk into the morgue
like,
and the body rises. You're like, oh shit.
she was like she was like a scalded cat, but I tell you,
Oh
I
my
can't believe it.
gosh.
I
Oh
don't
my
know if you kept
gosh.
running out through the doors of the hospital or not, but I tell you what, and that's what I'm saying. Like, because of the alcohol, myself, I thought it was the best thing for me, but it ended up being the worst for me. Worse because it still compressed that anger, the hatred, the sadness, the emotional that was built inside me. And so yes, so from the alcohol led to violence, and then to crime. You know, firstly knocking out coppers. My
Yeah.
love for coppers. So whenever they come around, I just love getting into them for some reason. Probably because the blame of authority.
Right.
So then it came to theft. With stealing cars just to get from A to B and doing that. Then come the break and enters for alcohol. You know, and that was on and off from the 80s to the 90s. So during the 80s, I probably only had about 3 or 4 years out.
He was
And
always in
then,
jail. Okay.
yeah, and then in 86, when I got out, started getting into football and playing football. And, you know, I had a few kids, and then like I was in a relationship, but not a stable one. So I was a bit of a lover, not a fighter in my days. And, you know, I've got kids all around the state here. But playing football and realising the ability on the football field and getting recognised, you know, I got offered a contract to go up to Coffs Harbour, and that's where my daughter and, you know, two daughters and son were living with their mother. And I sort of thought, no, I didn't like leaving my hometown. But when I went up, you know, there's something happened up there, and I went up there. And yes, fueled with alcohol, anger, and rage, I ended up taking a person's life, you know.
Okay.
And that's what I went to prison in '92, you know, and I got 14 years for it. So 90s, you know, like I said,
Right.
going into prison that time was probably, it was like, Fred, when you're spiritual, you know, spiritual and stuff, you look at things and we believe things happen for a reason. The good happen for the bad and the bad happen for the good. And this seemed to be the aspect with me. And when I was in prison, like in '92s, and then we hear about the black deaths in custody and everything, you know, and here I am getting my life together. I withdrew myself from alcohol, got it out of my system, didn't call on the clinical nurses there to give me any medication to help me with my withdrawal, you know, the horrors and all that stuff with alcoholics go through. And then when I started, you know, getting me, like, you know, heading myself on track, I was thinking, gee whiz, what am I going to do? I'm looking at a long stint. In '92, we call ourselves the Beyond 2000 Club, which the sentence would, where we wouldn't be released until after 2000.
Right.
And we're looking down the road, and it was a long way down the road, and thinking, what am I going to do in here? And then, you know, the Black Deaths in Custody Royal Commission stuff come in, and once they had that, there was some 339 recommendations or something. And out of that, you know, the corrective services were responsible to implement probably about 99 of those. And one of them was to organise an Aboriginal inmate committee to delegate an inmate to be the spokesperson. You know, this is male and female, to be a spokesperson for those inmates that are in the prison. And surprisingly, I got nominated by my peers in there, and I thought to myself, whoa, wait a minute, I can't even talk for myself, let alone for 50, 60 other inmates.
It was destiny.
But it's still, exactly, and that's what, so I started doing that, you know, and inmates were, you know, my brothers and nephews, who were what we call in there, you know, were coming up to me saying, oh, Unc, can you help me out with this application or this bail application or just even the bluey to get to another jail because of family and everything. And he always filling it out like it was pure knowledge to me, and I had no idea. They walked away, I'd scratch my head and think, Albie, how did you know that? These things come to me, and I thought, well, that's helped me. So it's helped me grow, helping others, you know, and in there. So sadly, you know, now, you know, a lot of those recommendations weren't implemented. There were a few which were pertinent while I was in at the time. But we was on a good course. We was on a good track. We had the corrective services meeting us halfway. They were, you know, wanted to help the Aboriginal inmates through our, you know, through the delegates and our connection with the outside, everything, get together and organise things like our NAIDOC days, our survival days, you know, which they call A Day, Australia Day here in Australia, but we look at it as an Invasion Day or Survival Day, and, you know, and NAIDOC week. So, you know, we have the National NAIDOC week, which is in the first week of July every year, you know, so we were meeting with the staff and outside people to to really organise these cultural events for our brothers in there, you know, and inviting all other ethnics that were in there too as well. You know, we didn't just minimise it to Aboriginal people. We opened it up for the prison community, you know, so which was good. We showed them. And when I was at Long Bay and I was doing this, we had a governor who was a Kiwi, okay, and we celebrated Invasion Day on the 26th of January, and he said, "Oh, we'll get the you know, the Maori inmates and everything to come out and celebrate, you know, and be with us, and we'll invite you to Waitangi Day because they were holding that as well." And I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Listen, you're looking at two different concepts, but," I said, "yous might be at peace over there, but we're not here." I said, "That's why we call it Invasion Day.
Yeah.
Yous call it Waitangi, the Treaty Day, you know." And that was a totally different concept. And he went, "Holy dooly." He said, "I did not even realise that." I said, "Well, but," I said, "well, this is what it's about, you know. We'd like to come out and probably get an insight of cultural stuff about your culture as much as we want to give you and share with our culture."
Because over there, a lot of times the Aboriginal people, like their history and their culture gets swept up under the rug. So the mainstream, a lot of the mainstream doesn't understand, right? Is that what I'm?
That's right. They don't want to understand it, Fred. They more or less think that Aboriginal people in this country get everything handed to them on a silver platter, which is totally far from the
That's
truth.
not what I see. That's not what I saw.
Far
That's not
from the truth, my
right.
brother. And this is what I'm saying. And yet this is all polished up by governments in their journeys over your way, you know, or other foreign countries, that they want to make it out that, oh yes, the Aboriginal First Nation people in this country are on the same level with them. No way are we, you know. Like I said,
There's, you
that's
know
a
what,
lot of
in every country, in every, place, there's always, people who are looked down upon, right? Britta, I want to ask, huh?
Yes, of course. We are, we are the denomination, mate, you know.
Britta, I want to ask you, are you familiar with, like, when he says about Invasion Day? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
What does Invasion Day mean to you?
Well, I grew up believing that it was a day of celebration. We were celebrating the beautiful colonisation of this beautiful land that we are free, and our kids are educated, and yet the truth of the matter is, I think, and I was only checking this the other night. We have the lowest life expectancy in a first world country, the highest infant mortality rates. Aboriginal women are not expected to live past 43, and I think men are 48. Or it's the other way around, 48 to 43.
46 for men.
Okay, I'm wrong. Yep.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is that because the medical care they don't get? Is that like what give me some of the reasons as to why that is.
This whole thing is like a ball of string that someone's chucked on the ground, swept under the rug, and all of a sudden people want to get out and pull it out and say, well, where do we start? Well, our community in itself is so diverse. I mean, we live in a country where Aboriginal, to me, means something else to Albie because of his cultural connections. My cultural connections are to the ocean, to the sand. My father, and before he boxed, we were put on a mission, and which reserves over there, and they were hunted and fished by the sea. And whereas Albie's tradition or culture out west is totally different. Our paintings are different, our artworks are different, our languages are different. I live 1 hour and 20 minutes drive north of Sydney, and I can maybe cross 3 different language groups in that space. So speaking entirely different, not dialects, languages. And we're losing them at a rate of 1 a week.
That's crazy.
And yet you go to remote. I took a break from writing and ended up in a school, and I couldn't work out why our kids aren't. I thought it started and ended with educating our kids. We have to get our kids to school. Well, the problems for maybe an urban community are completely different to when I went out into a remote community where the traditional custodians of that particular, like Ayers Rock, what you'll see, it's not called Ayers Rock to us, it's called Uluru. But to the traditional, when I went out there, kids weren't going to school because they had this alarming rate of what is called otitis media, which is, in layman's term, is glue ear. And they're in the desert with sand and wind, with little access to water. I remember going to see Nelson Mandela speak when he came here in 1994. He was taken out to an Indigenous community, and he said in that old man's voice, after spending 27 years on Robben Island, you need to look, all these people have come out to see me, but you need to look in your own backyard to see what's going on in your own backyard before you come and applaud me.
How hard is it to come together for people to understand other people's cultures? How hard is that out there?
I think